Hey everyone, it's Joe here with the Idaho Prepper Channel, and today we have Mackey with Ironside Ranch YouTube channel. And yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation. I just did a show with him on his channel, and we were talking about uh, Israeli carry versus uh, chambered carry. So if you guys want to check that out, head over to his channel, and you can watch that show. So, but today we're going to be talking about preparedness and. Basically, the question is what kind of got us into preparedness. So, yeah, so his channel, he's more of a firearms instructor. And so I was kind of playing the devil's advocate. I'm not really, as a lot of my viewers know, I'm not like super tech gun guy. Don't go too much into that subject matter. So it was a good show. So now we're going to kind of throw the ball in his court and talk about preparedness. So,
Okay, well, so
um,
so first off, Ironside Ranch is actually the old name of our channel. It's now under Timberline Tactical. So, for those
oh,
of you that aren't familiar with our channel, it actually originally started out as like a homestead, and then because I teach firearms, and then now I teach firearms full time, we moved into doing a lot more tactical training. So it was originally just about our farm though, and I wasn't filming any of the homestead gun stuff. And then now it's turned into that's what we do on the channel is
okay,
firearms training. So. But yeah, so the channel name now is Timberline Tactical.
okay, gotcha. Sorry, it was kept coming up as Ironside Ranch on the thing, and I kind of just got that stuck in my head. So,
No, no, no,
all
no,
right,
you're good.
got the correction there. Timberline Tactical.
Yeah.
And where are you? Where are you guys out of again?
So we're in Central Alabama, so we're about halfway between Birmingham and Montgomery, and so we work with kind of both markets and a lot of Alabama. So we have we're certified to teach a lot of different things here, but we teach we do armed guard work and. So we teach and train and license armed guards and people that want to get into executive protection, they generally have to get an armed guard license. So we do the training and everything for that and the renewal licensing and that sort of thing. And then Amanda Lynn and I both we do private investigation work, and so we're licensed with the state as PIs, and so we do a lot of that kind of thing as well. And then we work with a company out of Huntsville that actually does executive protection. We work underneath them, doing when they have big rigs come to Alabama. We work with them and actually provide security.
Okay, so more just like security type training. You don't have
Yeah,
like a
the
lot of
official name
civilian.
of our business is you can see TSS is Timberline Security Solutions. And we run the range stuff under Timberline Tactical, but the official business name is Timberline Security Solutions. So it's several different facets of security.
Okay, gotcha. So you're not training people that are just coming in for just wanting to get trained on their EDC pistol or
Oh
anything
yeah,
like
that's
that.
that's actually mostly what we do.
Oh, really?
We do an armed guard certification that we have regular scheduled armed guard certifications and stuff like that. But then I have a women's only class. We teach that one once a month where it's just
Uh-huh.
for novice women that want to come and learn how to use their pistol. And they'll spend 4 hours learning defensive firearm use. I'm not talking, NRA. We're going to go learn some safety things and learn which end is dangerous into the barrel. What our goal is for that class. I always tell people I'm taking you from zero to hero in 4 hours as much as I can do. And so in a 4 hour class, we get them to where they're able to, draw and fire and put two shots on the target and do a magazine change and actually manipulate their firearm. And then we move into our combat defensive pistol class. That's the one that's kind of our most popular one. That is for people that really know what the dangerous end is of their gun. They understand basic manipulation and in that class there we're working on fundamentals. We're working on shooting and moving and shooting around corners and how to actually control your rates of fire and all that stuff. So that gets a lot more in depth, and that's a fun one too. So that's probably
Yeah,
my favorite class to teach.
yeah. So you've probably seen a big uptick in just people coming in and signing up for and trying to
Man,
get trained.
it's a weird industry because as the economy gets worse, crime rises, right?
Yeah.
We know that there's that parallel. As crime rises, our business rises, but as the economy gets worse, people don't want to spend money. So we have this kind of weird
Yeah.
parallel
Huh.
the way that the market works for us. Um,
All right.
so as we see crime kind of get its upticks, more and more people want to learn how to use their weapons. We're getting a lot bigger spectrum on old and young. And when I say old, I'm talking about shouldn't say old. I should say later aged people, right? Be sensitive.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of people over the age of 60 wanting to take it now. So between like 60
Yeah.
and 75, I'm seeing a lot of people in that age bracket. And I've seen a
Sure.
lot of young women, 21, 22, 23 years old that want to take classes. And so we're getting a little bit more of a spectrum on there.
Huh.
So that's been really interesting. But what I always tell people is a shooting class is a lot like driver's ed, right? So on our Pistol Zero or our women's basic pistol class, that's driver's ed. That's you don't know how to drive at all, and you need somebody to show you how the car operates. The
Right.
Pistol or the Pistol Once or our combat defensive pistol and stuff like that. Those are geared towards people. That's defensive driving class, right? You already know how to drive, but we're just trying to take it to that next level.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I could pick your brain on that for hours because it's kind of an area that I'm definitely I need to get a little stronger in. So, but
That's your interview,
yeah,
man.
no, what's that?
I said it's your
But just
interview. Run it where you want it. I'm good.
right. Okay. Well, so I spoke to you earlier, and you had said you're not really a prepper guy, but you do have a homestead. You guys are on a homestead.
Yeah, so I say I'm not a prepper in the sense that we're not preppers, I'm not storing, 35 years of food for 12 people to get us through the apocalypse and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we have common sense, and common sense says that you should have some food and stuff stockpiled, and that you should have, everybody's a prepper. It's just a matter of how much, I guess. But
Yeah.
either you're prepping until you get to the next chance to get to the grocery store, or you're prepping and in anticipation of something bad happening. So we look at everything in our life as what's the most likely and what's the most dangerous course of action. And the most likely course of action is that we will deal with some type of, maybe natural catastrophe or something like that in our life. And so we want to be prepared to deal with that. We also look at, potential of a World War III breaking out now with all the turmoil globally. And so we want to keep those things in mind. And so that's when I say we are preppers, it's more along the lines of the homesteading where we're trying to get through to the next harvest season. We're trying to get through to the next time we send a cow to the butcher. And so that's really our sense of things here.
Yeah. Now, has that been something that you guys have always done? It had the homestead, or was this something that?
Well, that's how I grew up. I never thought anything about it until you move home and you end up getting out into the world and realize that other people don't live that way. But I never thought much about it. Dad always kept a year's worth of food on hand because we canned until the next harvest season, right? Until he could harvest his stuff again. And so it was never anything weird where I grew up. And then now you get out into the rest of the world and it seems a little bit weirder to people. And so that's kind of I guess I joined the Army, and so I was moving around a lot. So you kind of fall out of that when you're moving that much. And then now that I'm here in Central Alabama, I'm permanently putting down roots. I've got kids now, and so kids change your perspective on a lot of things in that regard because you realize that you have other people you're responsible for.
Yeah. So you don't have any plans for moving into the city and leaving the farm life then?
No, we're here permanently. I'm not. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's good because the food, the conventional food just definitely isn't getting any better. That's for sure. I think a lot of people there's so many threats that pose the average American now. It's hard to pick one and try to get ahead of it. So I think there's a lot of people that are going into the homesteading area just to try to get away from the food, the unhealthiness of the food, because they're just putting so much into it and you can't trust it anymore. And people just want to have more control over their food.
Yeah, it's a big reason why we do it is we wanted to make sure, for one, that the animals were being raised ethically, and because it's not cheaper. I mean, we don't save money by raising our own chickens, but I get a high quality egg that I can't really pay for. I get good control of my environment because they clean up a lot of the bugs and stuff like that around the farm. And then again, I just get to ensure that the eggs that I'm eating and the chickens that I'm eating are being raised in an ethical manner.
Right. Yeah, they're clean. They're not being pasteurized and all that stuff. I mean, you can tell like the difference between a farm fresh egg and a store-bought, egg. It's just two different colors, know.
Yeah, so, it really is. There's that yellow, that pale yellow that you get from the store-bought versus that really deep orange that you get in the farm fresh eggs that are free-ranged.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it was, I kind of talk about how I got into preparedness because you know, I'm not really preparing in terms of what I think is most probable. I mean, that is why I'm preparing, but I'm really started shaping my life based around something I had actually already experienced and trying to keep that, find myself in that situation, happening again. So like in '09, this was before I got married and had kids and everything, but in '09 when the economy, tanked and everybody lost. I mean, I was caught up in that, lost my house, was in debt. And after, the music ended, I mean, I didn't have a dime to my name. And I remember driving away from my house because the bank had foreclosed on it, long story. But and I remember for the first time in my life, I'm thinking, I have nowhere to go. And I had no food. I mean, it was crazy that someone like me, because I was working full time and I was doing everything I was supposed to do. I wasn't spending my money frivolously. I was just spending it the way, we're kind of raised. Like you just basically put everything on a credit card and everything's, just basically owned by the bank. And I was kind of just living month to month and just barely, had enough money to save. And as a result of that, when the economy got hit, the people like me like lost out the fastest because there was nothing there. I had no ability to take care of that situation. It was like all my money just was like went straight to the banks and the debtor. So I found myself really quickly in a situation where I had no food and nowhere to go. I did have friends, so I did have a place to sleep and all that, and I knew I was going to be okay. But as far as I knew, I was like, this isn't a good situation because uh, I couldn't take care of myself with my own resources, and it was just a very humbling feeling. So I thought I'm going to have to work a lot harder to make sure that I don't find myself in this situation again. So there was certain precautions I started taking, and then as I did that, it just kind of became a bit of a lifestyle. So the food that I have, I probably only have maybe, even though it looks like a lot, it's probably just like maybe 6 months worth of food. So my thinking is really it's just there to get if we do end up in a situation where the money just literally stops or there's just a huge break in the supply chain of food, there's enough food to get us by to where my family and I could probably put together a more sustainable, renewable food situation. So that's kind of the idea with the food. It's not really meant to just that things are going to come to an end. We're going to just feed off of it until for the rest of our lives. Obviously, there's just not nearly enough there, but the objective there, yeah.
It's hard to get a lot of food stockpiled, and you think a year's worth of food. It's like that's a lot of food to put back. It's very difficult to do. And we do it, with certain things every year, right? We'll put back because we raise onions, right? So I put back a year's worth of onions this year. Well, it turns out it was only about 7 months worth of onions, and now I'm stuck buying onions. And you don't realize, I hear people all the time when we used to sell cows and pigs commercially. Where this is actually been our last year doing it. We're no longer selling them. But I'd have people call and they'd order a half a cow or a quarter of a cow or half a pig. And it's like, you don't realize how much food you go through. And, my wife and I, we do 1 cow and 2 pigs every year minimum. And that's not including chickens. And that's not including a lard pig because we render our lard. And so it's like you go through a lot more. And we have 3 kids. So we're an average family. And but you figure, 500 pounds of meat is only 10 pounds a week. And it's just not that much meat, especially for 5 people. So people grossly underestimate how much food they need for a year or even 6 months. And so I like the old James Yeager model as far as his food preparation. Your goal should be 0 to 30 days, right? That's your first step. Get that. And that's your mountain house meals and the freeze dried stuff and things like that you just kind of put on a shelf. We don't really use. Maybe we pull them out when we go camping to kind of cycle through them, but that's really it. And then you go from the next step is your 30 days to 6 months, and then 6 months to a year. Build those two in separate packages, and then from there we work 1 year to infinity, which means that we have to have a growing resupply. We have to have local sources of food. We have to be growing a decent amount ourselves. We put in a greenhouse this last year to help us be able to produce a lot more food for ourselves, and that's going to be a game changer for us. That's you really have to be looking at it in that light. And so you're only going to take one cow, or you're only going to go to the butcher once a year for beef. So you better make sure that butchered beef is enough to take you through till the next year, till your cow's ready.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's the goal, or at least it should be the goal of most preppers, is just to get to a point of, sustainability and renewability. Because I mean, and that's the other thing about like storable food. It's just not very good for you. It's just
So
full of preservatives. And you would not want to live off of it for really more than a month. It starts to take a toll on you.
yeah,
So,
it's like eating MREs and stuff. People stockpile MREs. It's like, for one, MREs screw up your gut. Like,
oh yeah,
if you're going to eat MREs, you need a bottle of kombucha for each one to get your bacteria back correct.
right.
But because the preservatives in there just kill your stomach. But
Yeah.
I think it was the if I remember right, it was the DoD. They said that on MREs, there's actually like a service bulletin out about it, that you're not supposed to eat MREs for more than 21 days straight because of how bad they are for you. It's like our soldiers break that all the time. I know we did, but you're not supposed to eat it for more than 21 days straight. And it's just that food is just not healthy for you. So really, you got to
Yeah.
start learning preserving techniques. How do you preserve healthy food? And it's fermenting. Get a canner. Start learning how to can. We can a lot of meat. We freeze a lot of meat, and we dry a lot of meat. So
Yeah.
preserving and canning and dehydrating. And freeze dryers are expensive. I'm not real big into freeze drying. I know
Yeah.
if you have a contingency group of a bunch of people that want to do stuff like that, you all can go in and buy a freeze dryer. But freeze drying, I think they start at about $3,000 or so to get a
Uh,
decent freeze dryer.
yeah, just under three. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't really see the value in that, and probably mainly because I mean, yeah, you get like a 20 plus year shelf life with freeze dried food, but I'm thinking, I think most of this food, my storable food's going to be consumed within 20 years. I don't think I'm going to have to
well,
wait that long.
I would
You
love to
know,
have a freeze dryer, truthfully, because it comes in handy for a lot of things to be able to freeze dry for some of those quick meal prep things, and so there's some sense of convenience with it. But
yeah,
for one, I can't justify something the size of a washer and dryer in my house. I don't know where to put it, and
yeah,
and then two, it's just such an expensive item. It's like there's a lot of other things that I could buy with $3,000 that would serve me better. So and I'm on them, I mean, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not on a limited budget. And so, I've got to make use of what I've got. And so if you've got the money, I think great, go get one. And I think you'll certainly use it. I just think it's out of the spectrum for most people.
yeah. And again, it's like another one of those things where I don't know if anybody's like sat down and really crunched the numbers on that to see how, at the end of the day, how much money you're really saving. It's kind of like, what it's like, how much money you saving reloading, doing your own reloading, or just buying ammo at the store. I mean, unless you're consuming a lot of it, if I was a professional backpacker or something, I was eating freeze dried food all the time, then yeah, maybe I'd consider. But I know that those freeze dryers, they consume a ton of energy because you plug them in. It takes like at least it's like 48 hours to freeze dry, a full load, and then it's consuming a lot of oil.
Uh-huh.
So there's a bunch of oil that those things take. Consume, and then there's the food, and then there's the expense of the unit, and then I'm sure those units probably need maintenance of some sort every once in a while. So I don't know, somebody probably, if they sat down, really worked out the numbers, I'd be curious to know how much money you're
Yeah,
actually saving in the long run.
like you said with reloading, I think it depends on how much you're doing. I shoot more in a year than most people probably will in their lifetime because we run classes here. My wife and I are very avid competition shooters, and so we do 2 or 3 competitions a month at a minimum. And so, for me to go through 10,000 rounds of 9mm, doesn't actually take that much time. And I think just most gun people, that's 10 years worth of ammunition for them. and, uh, and
Yeah.
yeah, probably. But I think what you end up seeing is you see most reloaders tend to be shooters. And so for me,
Uh-huh.
9mm, I save about $1,000 every 10,000 rounds I reload a 9mm. So,
Really, really.
it's worth it in that sense. Yeah.
Huh.
And especially when you got kids and you can have them collect brass and you don't have to. So,
Right.
5.56, I haven't crunched the numbers on it, so I don't know how much I save on 5.56. But for 9mm, even buying cheap factory reloads, I'm saving about 10 cents a round.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Yeah, I could see that, especially if you're shooting some like I know a lot of the guys that do it, they're usually doing it because they have, they'll usually have like these kind of odd rounds, or they're trying to achieve, they're usually like long distance shooters, and
Mhm.
they're trying to achieve some specific type of, shot. So
Yeah, long distance shooters and hunters, it's real common with. I don't actually reload for my long distance guns. I just buy match grade ammo because I don't shoot it enough, and so it's not justified to set up there because it wouldn't, for as much as I shoot long distance, it wouldn't pay for the reloads right now, or wouldn't pay for the reloading equipment, and match grade ammo that I can buy from the factory is good enough for what I do because I don't do these competitions where I'm reaching out to 1,500 meters or more, and there's a lot of guys that do that. I'm just not. I don't get into the long distance side of things. For one, because it's really, really ungodly expensive to do the long distance stuff. But two, I really just enjoy the couple facets of this, which is carbine and pistol. That's really what I like doing. I like doing carbine work and I like doing pistol work, and so that's what I focus on.
yeah, that's good. So I'm curious, what would you, if somebody had didn't have was just getting into firearms and they weren't familiar, and maybe they wanted to get a defensive weapon, what would you suggest that they get?
Yeah,
Pistol, shotgun?
so
What
that's
would
our
you?
question. So, what kind of gun and then which one should I get? And so,
Well, here
uh,
I'll give you an example. Like my parents, I got old, I got old like kind of baby boomer parents, and they're just not real gun people. But because my dad actually just asked me the other day, he's like, "What should I get?" And and they're kind of like they're not hippies. They're conservative, but they're California conservative, which is basically just a liberal from
yeah.
2010. But my dad sent me this thing. Is so funny, and he shows me, should I get one of these? And it was like one of those mace like guns.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen those become more popular lately. That's
Yeah, and I'm
definitely
like,
California's answer to that question.
yeah, and I was like, no, just I told him like just get a 12, like just get a 12 gauge, you know, and keep it in the closet. And if something happens, that's what I suggested. But I'm thinking it seems like you're at this point, he's not going to do any type of training, I guarantee you. So he's just going to want something, that
Right. So a gun that people leave in their closet or in their glove box or in their purse or whatever, I always tell my students it's not a gun at that point in time. It's a talisman, right? It's there for good luck to wish evil spirits away because it does a little good. And that's the same. The same holds true with a gun that doesn't have any training behind it. And so I'll get you get women all the time, and their husband works as a truck driver or whatever, and he's gone for a week and there for a week, and so he wants to feel comfortable. So he buys his wife a shotgun, and it's 870 tactical shotgun. He racks one into the chamber and puts the safety on and says, "Just shoot him with this." And then you bring her out to the range, and to try to get her to hit anything bigger than the side of a house because she's never been taught how to hold it. It flies out of her hand the first time she shoots it because double up buck has some recoil, especially in a pump action. And then it's just too heavy for her to wield. And what the husband didn't take into account is one, he grew up around guns, so the handling of them is a little bit second nature. But two, our physical strength, despite what the left wants to tell you, our physical strength is in general so much more that a gun that doesn't necessarily feel heavy to us can feel very cumbersome to a smaller stature female, and so they may only be able to hold it up for just a brief second before it weighs their arm down. And so I'm
yeah.
not a huge fan of shotguns for self defense for a couple of reasons. For home defense, now let me preface this by saying we teach a home defense shotgun class, and I think people get training, I think a shotgun can be an exceptional weapon for home defense. The problem is that most people will not get the training, and at most people will take a pistol class. But the other thing is too is that how much experience do you have clearing a house with a shotgun, with a long rifle? None is what most people are at. None or very little. And even soldiers that are on teams that do this all day long, every day, and they're paid to do it by the government, it takes years and years and years of practice. I've cleared a lot of houses, and it takes a long time to be good and comfortable with it and be able to control that rifle, maneuver it around corners. It takes a lot of training to be able to do that effectively, not including, hey, I've got to do this and open doorknobs and get the kids out of the way while I'm looking for this bad guy. That takes a lot of training. It is substantially easier to do that with a pistol. It doesn't take any training to hold a pistol in one hand and open a doorknob, or to move a kid, or to hold a baby, or anything along those lines. So the pistol for most people is a more adequate self-defense gun because it takes less training to use effectively. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't get training. The final reason that I always recommend a pistol is because when you hear that bump in the night, I hear a lot of people and they're like, I've got body armor next to my bed and I've got my AR-15 all loaded up. It's like, okay, when you heard the bump in the night, did you actually go put that on, or did you walk outside in your underwear and grab your pistol? You walked outside in your underwear and grabbed your pistol and maybe a flashlight. So that should really be the gun that you're depending on, is the pistol and the flashlight, not the shotgun that you're not going to grab or the body armor that you're not going to use.
So then you suggest that person gets a pistol?
I'm of the opinion that most people should have a pistol, and if you're only going to have one gun, right, one gun to carry, one gun to defend your house with, one gun to take with you on, when you travel or whatever it is, you want something like kind of like a Glock 19 size gun. Those seem to be fit the bill well for a lot of those things. Yeah, because you can carry it. It's good for home defense. It fits into a lot of categories, and so I like that type of gun. And a Glock 19 is an easy answer for it because it's a quality firearm. And there's nobody, even people that hate Glocks, there's nobody that can argue that it's not a quality made firearm. It's cheap and affordable to maintain. I've swapped to actually Shadow Systems, so I use Shadow Systems now, which are kind of like a performance clock. But I just tell people, if you're only gonna have one gun and you don't know what to go get, go buy a Glock 19, take it to a gunsmith, have them put decent quality sights on there, and go buy 10 spare magazines. And then go get some training and learn how to use it, and use it effectively. But it's cheap to operate, it's easy to operate, and it's very effective from a home self-defense standpoint.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the argument for a lot of people is that they always suggest the 12 gauge because the rounds can't keep traveling. You get like buckshot. It's they, as opposed to like a 9mm round, like a 9mm round, you get a bad shot or something, that round just keeps traveling and traveling.
Yeah, when I hear people make that argument, it's because they generally don't have any understanding of terminal ballistics, right? So you have three different types of ballistics, and I'm sorry, I said that very abruptly. I don't mean to insult you. I'm not
that educated. That's what I was saying. This is more your area than mine. So
you have three different types of ballistics, right? You have internal, external, and terminal. So internal, what's going on inside the gun; external, what goes on from the barrel to the target; and terminal, what happens when the bullet actually hits the target. And modern self-defense rounds made for a 9mm have an appropriate amount of energy to enter into a body and create an exit wound, or to leave their energy inside the body. So you're looking at about 9 to 18 inches of penetration. So depending on how big your attacker is. So which means that it probably has enough energy to maybe go through the attacker if you have a smaller sized attacker, or even a somewhat average sized attacker, but it's probably not going to have much energy to go through much beyond that. And so you're not talking about shooting full metal jacket. You're not talking ball ammunition. You're talking self-defense, expanding ammunition. And that's what we're really looking for in a pistol. The other thing is that shotguns, double-aught buck, has a massive amount of energy. And so and now you got somebody that doesn't have training and that's hoping that the spread pattern of that double-aught buck is not going to send a bullet through a piece of drywall, because that double-aught buck will absolutely go through that piece of drywall. I mean, it's you're talking 8-9 rounds of double-aught buck. Those are massive bullets that have some penetration power. And one thing that people fall into the trap with shotguns is they say, well, all you got to do is point down the hallway and aim. And about 15 yards and closer, that shotgun can actually be used for hostage rescue shots. We teach that in our home defense classes. You can use that shotgun for hostage rescue shots because that shot pattern is actually only about that big at 15 yards on a cylinder bore shotgun. So you're not talking that you can just aim it down the hallway and point click any more than you can with any other gun. Your bullet hole is just not that much bigger. So people think that you're going to get this spread pattern that's 3 feet wide. And it's like, well, if you did, then you're sending rounds into the unknown, which is not a good option either. So that's why, again, because of the myths surrounding the shotgun, it's part of the reason why I'm not a big fan of shotgun, because people don't understand it. They think that if I fire a 12 gauge shotgun with double up buck, he's going to, the enemy's going to explode into a fiery ball like on Blade, and that's going to be the end of them. That's just not reality.
Yeah. So you'd suggest double up. So if you are keeping a shotgun in your house for like a defensive shotgun, that's what you suggest you put.
There's a lot of different opinions on this. Some people like slugs. I'm not a big fan of slugs because I don't think that they're the best option for home defense. Double up buck is very convenient, easy, affordable. It's easy to find. It's easy to buy, so you can actually train with the round, because you're going to train mostly with birdshot. But so when we do our home defense class, right? Our home defense shotgun course, you'll bring 300 rounds of birdshot and you'll bring 50 rounds of double up buck to it, because nobody can afford to do 350 rounds of double up buck. If you could, that'd be ideal. But so you're going to bring 300 rounds of birdshot, and then you're going to do the remainder of the class with 50 rounds of double up buck. And so when you're looking at classes like that, a double up buck just works for a lot of different situations. There are certain situations where slugs make sense, but double up buck can be used as a breaching round even. So it's just a very capable ammo.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. So, I mean, in your opinion, you think that it's more pertinent that people just be preparing for? I mean, I guess that was probably one of the questions I was going to ask you, was kind of what do you feel is I mean, of all the problems that we're kind of facing as a nation, like what do you feel is kind of the most likely situation that we're gonna have to be dealing with?
Well, I think that there's certainly, if you're talking about like the most, so right, you plan every mission on like most likely course of action, right? Most dangerous course of action. Yeah. Well, the most dangerous course of action is always got to be still within the realm of likelihood, right? The most dangerous course of action is like Independence Day, aliens coming and taking over the Earth, but I don't consider it to be in the realm of likelihood.
They've been talking pretty serious about it lately.
Yeah, I know it, right? What's that meme I saw, that I believed in aliens until the government started talking about it?
Exactly.
But anyways, so the my thought is what's the most likely course of action on the dangerous end of things, on the very far dangerous end of things? Some type of World War III breaking out.
Really?
I think we're still a ways away from like a civil war. I think there's a lot of people that have some romantic idea that they hope that happens so that they can take back the country and make America great again and all that. And don't get me wrong, I'd love to make America great again, but the simple reality is I don't think that we're that close to a civil war that people think. I do think that you're at the point to where some type of World War III could spill over into it, but I think this World War III would look a lot different than World War II. I don't think you'll see, you're not going to see trench warfare and firing on the battlefield the way that we have in the past. So it really just depends on how this spectrum between China and Taiwan and Russia and Ukraine, as well as Israel and Palestine, how those all come together, and as tensions continue to escalate. So I think that's probably what I would say I plan for the most, which means I need a lot of ammo, I need some quality firearms, and I need food, because that's what goes into short supply during those times. And then what follows a war is an economic downturn, right? So I need to have those things to get through that as well. So I need to have food, I need to have cash, your gold and silver and stuff like that. And you need to have it in a safe location, not at your house where it's accessible. So you have to have it, in safe locations. And there's ways of doing that. I'm not a fan of safety deposit boxes, but there's ways of purchasing storage units and putting safes in there that are not tied to your name, or even just burying it with friends, or storing some in a friend's attic and they store some in yours, or whatever. You have lots of different options there, but I guess that's what I look at. And so what I look at with that is, how do I prepare my guns? Well, I need to have firearms, I need to have training, I need to have, I should say, quality firearms, training, spare parts, and ammo.
Mm-hmm. So when you say war, so you're kind of anticipating like war on U.S. soil, like on our on our.
I don't know, because here's my thing is it doesn't necessarily matter if the war actually comes to U.S. soil, because what will happen is when you start taking the men away, there's talks about the draft and stuff like that. You take the men away from our society to go fight wars on foreign soil. What ends up happening here is that crime increases drastically. And so now you've got war here, even though there's not war physically here.
Yeah.
And then you've got an economic downturn that's likely to follow a war because of the gross overspending in Congress that's likely to create some problems. And so I would just, I guess my thought is how do you prepare for that? What gets short? Well, there's always, our eating staples, sugar, flour, stuff like that is always in short supply. Copper gets in short supply, so ammunition can get hard to find. And so, and I still want to be able to practice and train, so I've got to be able to keep that up. Spare parts for guns get hard to find. And so those are, I guess that's more what I'm looking for, is saying that whether it spills onto our soil or not is not really the question. The question is that how violent is it going to get here, regardless of where the is at.
Right. So that's more, yeah. So you're talking like more of like just societal breakdown, kind of like civil.
Yeah, and I think that people want to prepare for The Walking Dead, which is fine. It's fun. It's fun war games to go through in your head.
Yeah.
But the of it is that I think I like Fall's book on surviving the modern economic collapse and about the Argentina collapse. That's probably the best book that I've read on the subject as far as what actually happens. How does this actually come to fruition? Because how does bartering work? A lot of people think that they'll be able to barter. He basically puts that myth to rest and says people tried it, it didn't work, and they went to gold and silver and cash. So, but Joe, we got to.
Yeah, I was just gonna
say we're running low on time.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, it was good talking to you, Mackey. And your channel again is Timberline Tactical. So for anybody who wants to go check him out, he's got a good channel over there and talks a lot about firearm training and that subject. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
Well, thanks, Joe. I appreciate you bringing me on.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.